Now we're going to read our samples on our QT. Setup for manual chemistries is the same as with the other recording. I will need to bring my samples along with a little bit of gauze and my QT worksheet to my spec. Each QT is identified that you want to record which one you have walked up to. There again, first available, go to it. Okay? And check your maintenance log on who's completed that maintenance. Using the stylet that is attached to the particular one, press Run Test. And they're alphabetical. Single carets for line movement, double caret for pages. This is a protein / total, so it's under P's. So just page until you find it and choose the test you want. It's telling me that I have a protein, okay? Print full header, yes. That gives you some information that you need. Now it's going to walk me through the process. It says, do you want to use the stored blank? Never. You always want to run your own blank and standard. So answer no. And the next page will tell you to insert your blank. Okay? So going back to my test tubes, I want to make sure that my liquid does not have a dirty test tube area. So I'm going to take a piece of gauze and just twist and make sure there's no fingerprints or dried liquid in that read area. And it doesn't have a front or back. These are the same test tubes that we use for everything. Insert into the read station all the way. And at that point, your screen will acknowledge it. It is giving me an absorbance reading, labeling it blank. And it tells me to remove my tube. So I'm just going to remove that tube. I'm finished. It goes to the back. Now I want you to look at the screen. The only thing I have read an absorbance on is my blank. You cannot draw a curve with 1 point. So I know this is not my curve. And the question says, do I want to accept it, discard it? I want to discard it because that is not my curve. I've only read my blank. I can't draw a line with 1 point, so I'm going to discard it. The next question tells me to insert your standard. You didn't want to use ours, so insert the one that you have. Same thing, I'm going to make sure that the glass outside is nice and clean and insert it as it's telling me to. So now it is reading the standard, S for standard, and it's telling me to remove that test tube. Now I have a line. This is my line because I have my blank and my standard read. I do want to accept it. Before I press accept, I'm going to press print so I have a copy of that curve on my printout. Then I will accept. If you do not print first, it won't permit you to print. Okay? Now I will accept it. So now that has filed your curve into the system and you're ready for your samples. So I'm going to insert samples beginning with number 1. It does not identify who they are. So my first sample is my QC1. Insert the same way and it will take a reading and it's identified it as 1. Okay? Tells me to remove that tube. I'll go to the next tube, sample 2, which is going to be my QC tube. And it read my sample 2, and it's telling me to remove my tube. I do not have any more tubes. You would have, if you had your patients, you would have 2 for each one. So at this point, I'm ready to quit. And it does advance, so I can just tear this off. And we will look at the printout. This is a header that is showing me basically columns. So I have a total protein with my wavelength. It is telling me that my stored blank was discarded and my stored curve was discarded. So I know this is my curve. And if you use these as headers, I have a sample, number 1, number 2. I have an absorbance reading for each of those. Then in the units of grams per deciliter, I have my final answer, along with maybe a flag or information. So I would label QC1, QC2, and this is what goes at the top of your printout. You're going to complete your results here because you've got to find your acceptable ranges and decide if your run is acceptable based on your QC. If I had a standard reading here, it would mean that I did not delete my curve and I'm using what's in the memory. So just by a quick glance of this piece of paper, I know that I read through properly.